World War II affected many Jews, of course, around the world. In Morocco, many people do not know that. I wrote many articles about that. That there was all over the streets banners, posters, beware of November 15, 1942. November 15, 1942 was the official date that the French government, the Vichy government from Vichy, Marshal Pétain, was supposed to transfer the control, complete control of Morocco to the Germans. The 15th of November, they were supposed to take over. Previously, the French authorities took a census of all the people, mostly the Jewish people, which were about 265,000 Jews in Morocco at that time. When people were asking, why do you want to know, mostly Jews, census takers, why do you want to know all this? And they were saying, as an excuse, it's very nasty, telling them that because we have to give you ration cards. So consequently, they felt like they were going to get more food or something like that. And they cheated. They said, tell them I have 10 kids, 6 kids. They invented, they exaggerated the number of persons in the family. But in reality, there was a list to be supposedly to be given to the German authorities to ship us to the infamous concentration camps in Europe. One-way exit, not to come back. Discrimination, of course, because a lot of places was it said forbidden to Jews. Rationing was very severe. Curfew. No violence, but we didn't know exactly what was going to happen, what's happening. Older people, even older people didn't know. They kept us in the dark. Fortunately, November 8th, I remember the date, November 8, 1942. It was a Sunday. Flyers came down over Casablanca from U.S. Air Force planes that we, the American people, will come to save you, and so on, with a picture of Franklin Roosevelt. A little battle here and a little boom, dogfights and a little bombing in the harbor and all that. November 11th, by coincidence, the hostilities ceased. And we were saved thanks to the Marines and thanks to the United States. We were saved by 4 days. So thanks to them, when I make speaking engagement on that, I always say thank you 250,000 times for being there for us. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here today.
What about the King of Morocco?
The King of Morocco, the first one, King Mohammed, at that time it was called Sultan. Then it changed after Morocco gained independence from France in March 1956. They changed it to King, which is basically the same. Many people claim that he opposed the Germans not to bother the Jews because they are my citizens, you cannot touch them, and so on. And personally, I'm skeptical about that statement because the Germans could care less about anybody, whether it's a king or a president or anything. So could be true, could be not be true, I have no idea, but we're not aware of that. But in general, Jews lived very good, had a very decent life in Morocco. We got along beautifully with the Arabs. Once in a while, you get a little friction here and a little fighting here and there. Not much, nothing to call riot or anything. But there was a little friction here and there. But in general, I would say in general, we lived very, very beautifully with them.
What was Jewish life like in your home life? Shabbat, your mother, what was life like on the day?
We celebrated, like, of course, they were all religious. We celebrate all the holidays, Shabbat, every holiday, just like they do here, clean up, and Yom Kippur, the holidays, of course. We didn't have a car, we didn't have TV, we didn't have a telephone. To go out to the movies, you have to walk, which is not too far. And you have to work Saturday, you work Saturday. But we don't light the fire. So they respected the holidays very efficiently. In fact, my wife's grandfather is Rabbi Chaim Pinto, which is very well known, very well known. It's supposed a saint. She lived with him in the house. She grew up with him in the house. So that's how religious they were.
Where did you live? Did you live in the Mela or did you live in
the Mela.
What was the Mela like?
Not too bad, not too bad. Compared to other sort of a ghetto in Europe, it was not too bad. But the thing is, we didn't have any gates that enclosed us completely there. We could roam freely in and out, night and day. And Jews and Arabs lived in a Mela. In some instances, you had the Jews and Arabs living in the same buildings. One apartment here for a Jewish family, the next apartment is an Arab family. That's how good we got along together.
What were some of the foods that your mother would make?
I'm sorry?
What were some of the foods that you would eat?
Regular food. On Shabbat they do, of course, they do the chulin, what they call dafina in French. Holidays, depending on the holidays, special bread for Purim with decoration and all that, cookies. And as far as pastry is concerned, I don't know of any Moroccan family, Jewish family, that do not know how to make beautiful, delicious pastry. You can eat all day that pastry, you never get fat. Really. Just like here, most of them. They have never learned it at school. They have never been to culinary school or anything, but they were just experts.
Did you belong to a Zionist organization?
No, I just go to the temple across the street. We had what they call Alliance Israelite Club, but it was a pay club, and I couldn't afford to go to pay. I was familiar with it. We used to go there once in a while, play table tennis and play cards and watch movies. But belonging to the major organizations, no.
Can you tell me about leaving in 1948?
1948, after the state was declared, there were a group of us who were debating, youngsters. Yes, no, so we decided to go. So it was, of course, illegal to say I'm going to Palestine at that time. They called it Palestine. The French police was still the French government was still in control, and they were watching us like hawks. And you try to sneak out by train or somewhere. If you get caught, you get a beating, and they beat, very severely, and they try to catch the top guys. So after like 3 or 4 tries, somebody suggested, why don't you guys take the train, the coach, what they call wagon lit. So we dressed up nice. We went to a town called Oujda, which is at the border of Morocco and Algeria. And from there, we took a cab, went to the synagogue, which we meet, and we stayed there a few days. Then when our turn came in, 21 boys, no girls, my age, 18 and a half, up to 20, 21, to go to cross the border, to go to a town in Algeria called Marnia, Marnia. Once you're in Algeria, you're considered French citizen, you don't have to worry about anything. But how to get there, we didn't have a visa or anything. We crossed the border behind the scenes in the field. The gendarmes were there. You can see them like across the street. You cannot sneeze, you cannot talk, you cannot smoke, you cannot do anything. And who leads the Arabs? Who leads the way? 3 Arabs. One up front, one in the middle, one in the back with a donkey. I can't remember what I ate this morning, but I remember all these details. And why the donkey? Just in case somebody gets tired or fall up. And those Arabs were French citizens. They were allowed to freely to travel the border. So they gave us a token from the place. When you get to the place where the Arab takes you, you give the token to the person in charge. And they give us a password. Why the tokens? When you get there, so many tokens, that's how they pay the Arabs. So many people, that means we arrive safely. And the same routine every night, every night, every night. From Oran, from there we went to another city in Algeria called Oran. Long story, condition, bad condition, few days. Then to Algiers, the capital. In Algiers, I met the guy who was in charge. I happened to help him in Casablanca, do a little work with passports and all that. And it was an apartment building. It was like wall-to-wall refugees, like 3-story building. All of us there. Excuse me. Conditions were very, very critical. Food was almost nothing. Sanitation, never heard of it. And we stayed there maybe, I would say, close to 2 weeks to wait our turn. When our turn came, they took us to the airport, Algiers, for a small plane, like 60 or 80 of us. They took us to Marseille, which is the south of France. Then next day we go to DP camp, where all the refugees, all the refugees going to Israel, they stationed there. And that was the worst part you can imagine. Again, food and sanitation was inexistent, more or less. Us, the youngsters, they started to teach us how to carry a weapon and this and that, wooden rifles, to show you how to do this and that. A couple of words in Hebrew. Then after maybe 3 weeks, excuse me, they say, okay, we're ready. We have transport for you. There were like 10 trucks at least, 300 or 400 people, to a harbor in the south of France called La Ciotat, 2 words. And when you get there, there's a big liner. Excuse me, I'm sorry.
There's a fresh bottle.
No, it's okay. You see a big liner like the Queen Elizabeth. And they told us, that's the ship that's going to take you to Israel. In the meantime, you go inside this little boat, give us a token, they give it to the French police. Police looked the other way, they were paid. We'll wake you up, I'll transfer you to the, around 3 o'clock in the morning, something like that. All you can hear is the noise of the diesel engine. What's going on? We got up in the morning, nothing but you and the good Lord and that fishing trawler in the middle of the ocean. We slept in bins, 5 deep. The stench of the fish, and add that more things. It was horrible. It took us 13 days to get to Israel, to Haifa. When we get to the harbor, everybody would raise the Israeli flag, and we started singing Atikva, and by miracle, you left everything behind. All the suffering and all that stuff stayed behind you. When you see Haifa, you see the Israeli flag, and everybody stood at attention. And they treat you very well with tea, coffee, cookies. Then they sorted the people, a group here, a group number, bus number so and so and so on. And from there, us, my group, directly to Army base. We slept there in the morning. The sergeant comes to talk to us in Hebrew. I don't know what it is. Everybody was looking at him like, you understand, compris? Now, some of my friends from the ship, I call it a ship, they were taken directly to the battlefield. Supposedly they knew how to operate a weapon or something. Then some of them unfortunately never came back. They never saw Israel. They needed cannon feed. So fortunately for us, we stayed. And after a couple of days, they took us to every place where they had, where they needed action, in Negev, and Galilee, every place. So this lasted about 2 years in the army. And after that, you're discharged. And I did what I had to do, worked, and I went back to Casablanca, like I said. And this young lady was still there, still available, according to my mother. That she had many requests to marriage, and she turned them down, all of them. She said, "No, I'm waiting for Max." I don't know why, but and like I said, the rest is history. We came in and we got married, thank God, and so far.
So when did you and your wife leave Morocco? Why did you decide to leave Morocco?
I'm sorry?
Why did you and your wife leave Morocco?
Well, I was working with the Corps of Engineers, U.S. Corps of Engineers in Casablanca. If you go to Casablanca today, to Morocco, you land at the airport. There used to be the base I used to work at. I started from scratch. I ended up being assistant manager of the base. In March 1956, the French government granted independence to Morocco. And I have never seen so many people in Casablanca, in the heart of the city, demonstrations, and of course happy. I don't blame them, being happy, independence and this and that. And we just got shook up. And my wife was pregnant at that time, so you know what? Let's get out of here before it's too late. So we were supposed to stay in France, but we changed our mind, and we went to Israel. 56. As soon as we arrived, my wife had my son. Then again, war broke out again in 1956 because of the Gamal Abdel Nasser, who nationalized the Suez Canal. And I went to the Gaza Strip, where they have the fighting now, for 6 weeks. I had no idea if I was coming back to see my son. I don't even know what it looked like. Fortunately, I call it reborn again. That's a different story. I came back from on furlough, and I went back to see him. Then after that, we started to stay in Israel. From the job that I had in Casablanca, I was very well paid. I made very good money, and that money started to disappear while I was over there in Israel. And I said to my wife, you know what? This money is not going to last forever. There was no jobs, practically no jobs, no housing. We were in what they call the Ma'avara, which is a transit camp. Very, very, very unhealthy condition. Anyway, and we decided to leave Israel the second time. And it took me a while, a lot of paperwork, a lot of this and that, a lot of imagination to do things. And we went to France. We lived in Paris for 5 years. That's where my oldest daughter, Monique, was born.
Those years you were in Israel in the Mabarot,
Ma'abarot.
did you experience discrimination because you were Moroccan? Did the Ashkenazi Jews discriminate against you?
Yes. Fortunately, from 48, I learned Hebrew, and I knew how to express myself. Labriut.
Toda.
And I didn't fight with anybody. Argument, yes. I never let anybody put me down because I came from Morocco. I say, I may have come from Morocco. Yes, I did. I come from Morocco. It's not my fault I was born there. But I did my share before you. I spent 2 years in the army, so you have a country here. I'm not trying to brag or looking for medals or be a hero, but don't treat me like an alien. And there was still discrimination, Ashkenazim and Sephardim. What they did, they brought the experience that they had in Europe, their own discrimination from their government. They brought it to Israel against they wanted to find a scapegoat, and who they find? Moroccan community. And today, I understand the Jewish Moroccan community is very, very flourishing in Israel. Doctors, you name it.
Do you remember all the Jewish refugees from Arab countries in Israel? Do you remember the Jewish refugees coming from Egypt and Libya and?
Some of them were with me in the
Iraq.
army. Some of them were with me in the army, from Egypt, from Libya, from Tunisia, North Africa, of course. And after the service, they disappeared. Each one went his or her own way. At that time, in '48, men and women were in the army. Women were allowed to fight with the same weapon, if you're lucky to get that weapon. Now, if you ask 90% of the Israelis what happened in 1948, they will tell you, well, the War of Independence. Yes, but what happened? I don't know.
So what happened?
I don't know.
No, I'm asking you.
What happened after David Ben-Gurion declared independence in the state of Israel, May 14, 1948, in Tel Aviv? Everybody tried to convince him, Mr. Ben-Gurion, it's too early now. He said, now I'm going to declare the state. Now happens whatever happens. So as soon as the British left, May 14, 1948, the British mandate expired. As soon as they were international waters, which is 22 miles, I believe, 6 Arab countries attacked Israel from every place. We had no weapons, at that time. No weapons, no tanks, no airplanes. We had maybe two choo-choo airplanes, whatever. You name it, all the tricks they did in the world. Like somebody says, the Arabs had everything, we had nothing, and we won. And they attacked from every place. Nobody in the world, no country in the world, including President Truman, didn't give Israel a chance to last even 2 days, 3 days. They say, how can 600,000 Jews survive five Arab countries attacking with all the equipment, with everything they have? Like Jordan, for example, was the Jordanian army was the toughest in the Middle East at that time. Was trained, equipped, and commanded by British officers. Their main British officer was they gave him a name, General Gulab Pasha. That's why they overcame the defense of the Jewish core of the old city of Jerusalem. And what happened during that war? 6,000 people, men and women, 1% of the Jewish population in Israel were killed. Now, Israelis don't know that. I say, ask your grandpa. Maybe they can remember the history. When I was there, everything was rationed. The food was rationed except bread. Bread was galore. But food, even if you want to buy a tube of toothpaste, you had to bring the old toothpaste back, tube. Otherwise, you can't buy another toothpaste. In the army, we ate very good. We were very well fed, very well taught. But the civilians suffered a lot. But they sustained, they maintained their decency, and they suffer, but it's okay. They managed to overcome the upheaval that they had at that time. And like I say, you ask many Israelis, they don't know.
Where did the weapons come from?
I'm sorry?
Where did your guns come from?
The weapons mostly from Czechoslovakia, because Czechoslovakia was manufacturing weapons for the army. And after the war, they left a lot of them, and some of our boys, our Machal people, in 1947, what they call Aliyah Bet, they were trying to buy the weapons, use all kinds of gimmicks to get the weapons clandestine to Israel, which they did many times. Ships, they manned the Aliyah Bet ships. In fact, the first Israeli commander of the Navy, the Israeli Navy commander, was Paul Schulman, an American. And if you remember the movie Cast a Giant Shadow, with you should see it, with Kirk Douglas, John Wayne, a lot of people. Kirk Douglas played the part of a colonel from the United States, Mickey Marcus, Colonel Marcus. His name was Michael Stone. He was recruited here. David Ben-Gurion sent people to recruit him to come over to Israel to write the manual for the Israeli army, to teach him how to fight, how to do. Kirk Douglas played that part, and by accident, When you go out, they give you a password every day. Something happened, they changed the password. So the sentry had the password. They knew him. He said, "Oh, it's me. Oh, hi, yes, sir, Colonel." The second night, so two nights later, he came out that night, draped in a sheet because it was cold, lighted a cigarette, and the guard said, "Who goes there?" He said, "It's me, Marcus, Michael." "Who are you?" "Password." He didn't know the password. He shot him, killed him. And this is a true story. If you watch the movie, you'll see it. It's a true story. And like I said, the Machal group, the Mitnadvei Chutz La'aretz, 3,500 people volunteered from 37 countries. 300 of some of them were Jews. Were not Jews, I'm sorry, were non-Jews. They didn't come there as emissaries to get paid or anything. They just wanted to help. They were help. Some of them were killed in action to defend the state of Israel. And if you go to Jerusalem next time, if you go by car, before you get to the city, there's a sign that says Sha'ar Haggai. It's a little forest, if you want to call it. Drive in there, go inside, and see the monument of Machal, who were there for 1998 for the 50th anniversary. The monument was inaugurated by the late Yitzhak Rabin. And he said, "They came to us when needed them most." I think it's a little bit exaggerated, but in one way it's true. They say, if it was not for them, Israel would suffer a lot, if at all, to exist.
Do you feel more Moroccan or more Israeli?
I'm sorry?
Do you feel more Moroccan or more Israeli? What's your identity?
I feel Moroccan when it depends on what, whatever it is, but I feel mostly American.
So when did you come here?
I'm sorry?
When did you come here?
June 30th, 1960.
Why did you come?
When I was working with the Corps of Engineers in Casablanca, I asked my boss, first, when the Marines landed in 42, we got out of the houses after the curfew. We see these boys, beautiful soldiers with the American flag and all that. You're supposed to be scared from an army. We fell in love with them. We fell in love with those guys. I mean, for some reason, I don't know. And I said to myself, to my friends from school, one day I'll go to America. I had no idea where America was. You show me the map, you show me where's America, who's going to take me there, how much is it going to cost, and so on. And to make a long story short, my boss signed for me. And it took me from that day to the day I got my visa, it took me 7 years. And I never gave up. When I was living in Paris, I never gave up. Every time they asked me for a document, I supplied that document because I felt very strongly. And in the process, I learned a lot about the United States. I was very much involved in learning about the states, the cities, the flag, a lot of things that some students don't know. I'm not trying to brag. And I didn't want to miss that opportunity.
What have you done to hold on to your Moroccan heritage?
Belonging to Moroccan community like here, and with the temple, the prayers are basically the same with the chanting and all that. It brings you back memories from the old country.
You're amazing.
Well, I don't know. And when I was in Paris, excuse me, my boss from the Corps of Engineers, I was working for the PX, which is the base exchange, Shechem. He called me one day, he said, "I want you to come to Wiesbaden to have a seminar, run a seminar for all the PX managers in France, to teach them how to run a PX, how to operate them, because I did a good job in a PX. Well, I brought it up from down to the bottom, all the way to number one. And I said, okay, all expenses paid and so on. I get home, and I told my wife, I have some good news for you. She said, never mind the good news, I have better news. Okay. No, not a baby. Your parents come in? No. Did you want to everything I asked her? No. She said, okay, tell me your news. And I showed her a letter from the boss. She said, that's nothing. Oh my gosh, honey, what do you mean that's nothing? What a beautiful trip. She knew how much I wanted that letter from the consulate. She showed me the letter from the U.S. Embassy. We are very pleased to inform you that your visa to go to the United States, or migrate to the United States, has been granted. I fell backward. And I called my boss the next day. What do you mean you're not coming? And nothing? I said, don't yell. Here's the story. What do you think? He said, you're a smart Jew. You decide. You go to America. I said, of course. Forget Wiesbaden, Germany. And we're here, thank God.
Can you show us your naturalization document and tell us the story of the day you got it? Here's your wife's, and here's yours. And hold it up so the camera.
It's like taking picture of DMV. Huh? Smile to the camera.
Can you say what it is? Max, can you say what it is?
I'm sorry?
Can you tell what it is and the day
Yeah.
you got it?
Oh, yes. This is my certificate of naturalization for the United States around 1965, I believe. You had to reside 5 years in the United States as a legal immigrant, not illegal. From the day you come to the United States, from the day you get a green card, 5 years later, you are allowed to apply for citizenship. In my days, it took maybe 3 months from the day I applied to the day I was called up to get this beautiful document here. And finally, we received it, and this is the most beautiful, the most important document I've ever had in my life. Better than a pink slip for the house or the car, which is nothing. This, no money in the world can buy this. You have to deserve it. And I hope I deserved it. And I'm very proud to have it, and I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
So my last question.
Sure.
Is, do you have a message, here we'll put it down. Do you have a message you want to tell, like, the grandchildren of Jews from Arab countries, the young Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews?
Well, my message is, to my children, they know, of course, my grandchildren, keep up the good work. What are you doing? Keep your Jewish heritage. Never give it up. Never give it up. And if anything, support the Jewish organization. Support anything that you can, and mostly support the state of Israel, because without the state of Israel, we cannot say we cannot wear the Star of David, which I have here, the Israeli army. You'll be embarrassed to put a mezuzah on the front door, which in France they do not put it on the front door; they put it inside the apartment. Unbelievable. And because of Israel, you can walk proudly with a yarmulke on your head. If you go to the temple, some people walk with a talit. You're free. This is free. Thank God, a free country. You walk to the temple with a talit on your shoulders, without fear or anything, without looking over your shoulder for the police to harass you or tell you cannot do this. There are some exceptions once in a while, but in general, keep the faith and be strong and never give up. Never give up. That's what I did. Thank God. I hope I did what I had to do, and I'm very happy and proud of what I did. My son is served 18 years in the United States Air Force. He returned as a major, aerospace engineer, worked for Boeing. Rocket, you ask him anything about rockets, he can tell you. My youngest daughter lives there also. She's an aerospace engineer. Not as high caliber as he was, but of course he spent many years. They're both married, no children. And I have 2 daughters here. One lives in Northridge with 2 daughters. Her oldest daughter, Brittany, graduated from Yale University after 4 years. And she went to England, to King's College. Spent a semester there. She decided she loves it there, to stay there. Now she lives there. She works for the Churchill Museum part-time, and she works for British Magazine as editor-in-chief. She's so happy there. We want to see her. And her sister goes to Ivy League University in Dartmouth College. Now she's in Lima, Peru, because the school sent her there for 8 weeks. She's coming back this week. And I'm proud of their achievements, and I hope to be here for many years to see them happy with their families and all that. Most important, like I tell them, I tell everybody else, keep your Jewish heritage. No matter what, don't give up. Never give up the fight.
Thank you. That was a great interview. You're so inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Will you take a picture with me?
Of course.
You're like one of the first people I've met who actually